Oh, all right, yes, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Okay, here we go.
You ready?
Want makeup first? Or?
This is as good as it gets. Oh, why
Recording
don't I
in
take
progress.
this off? Speaking of makeup. Yeah. Oh, and I left my toupee at home, damn. Okay.
Did it come over to pay? or-
Yeah, how's that? Is that better? Is that covering
Is it orange?
anything? Is that covering anything up? Okay, yeah, so,
Hold it under your chin more.
yeah, is that
It'll be
better?
more comfortable. Hold it here, hold it here. Then it won't be bunched up as much.
Is it bunched?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, that's, thank you.
Do you want me to get a little mirror so you can?
Yeah. Anyway, so, let's just go over the scheduling. Hopefully tonight we can vote on this thing. We should, cause ZZZ. And so David, this is a question for you. We have to get legal review.
Yes.
So if legal review comes back and says, well, you have to change X, Y, Z, are we still good? We could go to the date with the wrong thing and fix it, right?
Right.
So we wouldn't have to have
But if
it.
you fix it at the
Then
first
we need
hearing, then
two
you have
more.
to have a public hearing again,
Just one.
just one.
Just one, so we'd be okay.
Yep.
Okay, because the issue is gonna come up whether people wanna meet on December 23rd.
You can't,
Okay,
I'm gonna be out of
Fine
town.
with me, but
I would do it, I don't mind not doing it.
I'm not going anywhere.
Well, let's just try and get this,
I don't know why we wouldn't just do it, and whatever the legal counsel says, just change it,
Right,
and have the hearing
right.
on that.
okay,
I mean, don't you think?
I do.
I mean, I have something dated August 12th, and this wasn't the beginning. You know, we've been.
Oh, yeah,
doing a lot
no
of-
kidding.
A lot of,
So let's nail it down tonight
okay.
and move on. Okay, so let's do the minutes. Does anybody have minutes?
I do have comments.
Okay, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I think Ben Killen was here.
He was?
Well, he's listed as both here and not here.
I don't think he's.
I don't think he was here.
Okay, then he should be taken out of the,
Yep.
out of the initial list.
Or did he come late? I can't remember.
No, I don't believe he was,
He didn't
I
come at
wasn't
all?
here last one, so.
I don't think he was
Was he
here.
a guy? Did he see
I don't believe him to
Could we
be.
review the game tapes? But,
Yeah, well, that would be, we
I
can do
don't have
that.
that handy. I mean, I guess we could. The second thing that I have is in item number 1, the final sentence, the board found no reason to deny the application.
Where is this?
Right here.
And this is, Mike Smith, yeah.
You might, right, I wish we'd say something like, the RSA does not require a public hearing, and.
Well, I agree. I mean, it says, the RSA says something affirmative, like the board shall approve this. So I think it'd be a
Yes.
good idea to say something along those lines.
Right, so, okay, so, the RSA says the board shall approve it, no hearing is required.
Is that right? Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's,
and then the board voted to approve.
the board, yeah, however you wanna do that, David.
Okay.
And then, you need a space between the word vote
Yep,
and
I
application.
just saw that myself.
Yep, okay, and that's it.
Okay, anybody
I
else?
didn't know anything else.
Okay, so were you sitting last time?
I believe I was.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's all believe it.
Well, Rich, you appointed Rich.
Yes, you
Okay,
pointed me.
okay, so
The
there.
very first sentence says that.
Rick, you-
There we go. Yeah, it's so hard to read people's faces without faces. Anyway, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the minutes as amended by Rich Brown. Is there a second? Tim? All those in favor? Oh, you weren't here.
I'm gonna abstain.
All right, so it's four people are voting yes. Okay.
Sorry.
You're just in time though. Okay, so 4 people, unanimous. Okay, so now we can move on to the,
See, Eric brought your,
yeah, my book is back. My book is back in town. The boys are
Well, the
back.
Herald, you said you were also.
How did it turn out? Was it Mr. Mustard in the library? What is this?
Oh, this is my, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I need this.
That's Tim.
My toupee.
Yeah. This is Halloween.
Okay.
Halloween.
I don't wanna
Try
know
this.
anymore. Anyway, let's get this going, so, we have the language that everybody got that we're working from. I still have, I'm gonna give it one last gasp effort. But if any, why don't other people go first? I mean, let's just go around the table and, Vicky, how do you feel about it as it stands?
About disease?
No, forget disease.
Well, that,
I mean, don't forget it, but you know,
that limitation is something I don't support,
which is what?
number one.
Our,
Roman numeral one?
Yeah, the little I,
S,
D, little I,
okay, so you're against that,
yes.
okay. And, is there anything else?
No,
Tim,
I don't have anything else.
Rich?
I agree with Vicky that we should not include Roman numeral I, and I would also in D write out solar energy systems the first time.
Okay, that's a good idea, why not? Well, I mean, we already defined it, I guess, but,
But I mean, it's.
Why not?
it's-
Sure.
Instead of SES.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Eric, do you have any comments?
I also do not support, item one.
Okay,
What I was gonna offer as a possible compromise, was, something to the effect of, SESs that are larger than required to meet the electrical needs on the lot will be required for site plan review.
well, we can't do site plan review, but maybe we could do special exceptions.
Okay.
Because, isn't that right, Vicky?
it's true, it's residential.
Residential. All right, so everybody's pretty good with it, you have that offer, so I will go with, I'm not gonna do Joe Manchin, but this is, I want my last licks, so here's my concern. First, in terms of, what Eric was addressing, and looking at the numbers that, Rich provided. So if 350 to 400 square feet is enough for an average home, and 1,000 square feet, you had a number there, that's for a really big, that would be a lot. My question is, what is the downside of requiring something like a special exception for arrays over 1,000 square feet? I know it was pointed out that, is Rich with us?
Yes, Rich is.
Okay, I know Rich Mengy pointed out that when you figured everything in, we could end up with, on an accessory use, with an array, as large as an acre. And then it was been pointed out, I think reasonably, that, it's unlike, that's not gonna be a thing that happens a lot, if at all. However, that's based on what we know now about costs and technology, and that's gonna change, and it could change very quickly. So, I would be concerned, and from the people I've spoken to who are very supportive of solar, are concerned about larger arrays, that's been my experience, and they're very concerned. So I don't see any downside in requiring oversight by the zoning board for something over 1,000 square feet. There's just no downside to it, and I think we're being irresponsible. If you have an acre or half an acre of array, certainly an acre, you're gonna want fencing, you want safety issues, you're gonna want neighbors to be able to get to weigh in. That's my take on it.
Can I?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Vicky. You go first.
Well, I think we're kicking the can to the zoning board, and putting them in a very difficult position, because we are not providing them with any criteria upon which they would be making a decision. I think most of this is related to aesthetics, and if we are going to do that, then we need to define how they're gonna judge that, because that's what the neighbors are mostly gonna be complaining about, is the aesthetics.
Well, I think the 10.4, it gives us a lot of guidance.
Gives you some guidance about some things, like impact on streets, you know?
Well,
It's not gonna
also
that's-
safe, well, then we could add something like,
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that if you're
then
gonna
let's
do
say
that.
in terms of safety and,
Well, no, those already apply, we don't have to repeat that,
Okay.
it's like, mainly the neighbors are gonna not like how it looks.
but that's already in 10.4,
I don't think it's,
harmonious with the neighborhood, the whole deal.
well, that's even worse, I mean, really.
Okay, then
Trying
I'm-
to make a judgment on that can be difficult for the,
Then-
it's
then let's-
subjective. If in the section, the fourth, 4.2, if you put, something to the effect of, I think 4.4.2 is, or wherever you're putting it.
Yeah, wherever we're putting.
Say something to the effect of, any solar systems that are being used as accessory uses that are greater than 1,000 square feet, must get a special exception. And then say, and are subject to these additional criteria. And you can list the criteria as far as what it is you feel.
Well, I would say safety, takedown, or abandonment issues,
I would say screening is,
screening,
Yeah, the height, we're not really limiting height.
we're not,
are we?
we haven't been limiting our
Yeah,
screening, abandonment.
now, is this for ground mounted only, or is this for roof mounted too?
No, this is just ground, why would we do that with,
I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I don't
because
think
I wanna, it should be clarified, or at least clear that it's ground mounted only.
so what do we say, screening, abandonment,
If you're dealing with something of that size, I don't know, typically everything that's going in is being done by a licensed electrician, but just, and I don't know how to say it because we don't have, a building inspector to be able to,
No, I mean,
Yeah,
they
I mean-
need to have the company, I guess, well, how do you get the okay to get it switched on here?
it has to go through the.
Somebody has to inspect it.
There's no inspection through the town, the only thing is the power company will inspect the connections to their,
Right.
and usually the power company is the one that makes the connection to their
Right.
their grid.
Okay, yeah, in Hanover, we have the building inspector goes out and looks at everything. but
Right.
I remember there needed to be somebody coming in to take a look at it before mine could be turned on. I guess it was the power company, cause it was not the installer,
Yeah.
yeah. But-
So, I would respectfully ask that we not include all of these constraints. First off, I think, John, the max, that could be, the maximum lot coverage on the lot is only 26,000 square feet.
well, that's a
on
lot.
the largest possible, which is only about a half acre, so. an acre's-
Would that be right?
Yeah, because 43.5.
Could two be combined and make a bigger one?
No, that's the lot coverage.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a half
so-
acre, so
A
half
half- I
acre's
mean,
plenty big.
It's still sizable, I just
Yeah.
wanted to correct that,
Okay.
that particular fact. I think that you asked what's the downside of getting a special exception, and I think it is not, going to the zoning board is a lot of work. It's always a lot of work because you have to.
I've done it 13
Exactly.
times, so I know.
It does not, that doesn't comport with the sentence in the master plan that we should make it easier to install solar panels.
Well, actually, that's not exactly what it says. What it says is that we should, I forget the exact wording, but the gist is that we were gonna make things easier.
Right.
In general, we're making it far easier simply by codifying and also by going on to allow so I don't see that as,
Well,
I don't see doing our due diligence as a contradiction of that.
so this feels very much as the last minute that we were saying, oh, wait a minute.
Hasn't been for me.
I mean, what's happening is we're saying,
Well, let me ask you this, okay? What is, I mean, realistically,
Yeah.
we're saying, and you said, and I agree, there's not gonna be a lot of people who do this. Maybe, things will change and people will start to do it. So, these are large, over 1,000 square feet is larger than anybody needs for their house. So, it's not gonna be a lot of people, and I feel we're not doing the responsible thing. If when things get that large, and there start to be screening, issues, abandonment issues, other issues that can be covered, under a special exception, I think we're being irresponsible, and I think people are gonna be upset if this happens.
Yeah, I just feel really strongly that neighbors should have input.
For large
Yeah.
arrays, yeah, not for the reason, I mean, 1,000 square feet is a lot.
Right.
It's not, this is not something that's gonna inconvenience many people, and as inconvenient as it might be, and I don't think it's all that inconvenient for something that large, I think it's appropriate, and my take from feedback I've gotten is that people will support that.
how will we write, were we to say, yes, we do wanna put these constraints in, I think Vicky's point's well taken.
Yeah.
The ZBA is not gonna be thrilled to say, great, they came in, they're
So
asking for.
how would we do
So
it?
what criteria ought they use?
Well, that's what we were just going over.
And,
I mean, here's an example, I'm not saying we should use these, but this is from Dublin, New Hampshire. This is under site plan review, but they said, address issues such as safety, access, sound, erosion control, as well as screening and siting, with the objective of minimizing adverse impacts on abutting things. So it's not, it's not a great challenge to write it, it's just a question of writing it. And choosing what criteria we would use.
So what would you say if you wanted to implement a screening thing, what would be the standard to call it screened?
I don't know,
Okay.
what would
but
you say?
I'm not supporting it, that's, I think.
Oh,
it's
so
very-
you're against it?
I'm critical of something that is non-specific and throws, a well-intentioned person who wants to put solar in against the neighbors, and what does screened mean? Does that mean that no one can see it, that you need to have a 6-foot fence, that it's not visible from
That's something-
somebody else's property?
That's
or-
something we could come
Yeah,
up
well,
with.
we need to talk about that, I don't know what you have in mind.
I don't have a
Okay.
specific in mind.
Okay, and for the abandonment, I think that they all should have that provision, honestly.
Well, now's your chance.
Yeah, but I would prefer not to say that right now, so
Well, then you're not gonna say it.
I'm not gonna say it.
Okay, so you don't support it, how do you feel?
Well, as I said, I just think it's really important for the neighbors to have some input. But I don't think it's responsible of us to just allow somebody to do something without any input from the neighbors.
Well, when you say something, we're talking about very large
Right,
arrays.
right, yeah.
I think,
Well,
Rich has something
Okay,
you'd like.
Rich, maybe.
Rich, you're muted at the moment.
Yeah, I think, again, I think John Statler, I support John's notion, and I think Tim I'm thinking I'm understanding as well, that, there should be at some break point that these do get reviewed. And maybe if we look at what the cost of these things are, but, getting back to the discussion of, how much could you actually cover a lot? I was kind of trying to review my calculations from before, but if we were saying that the 29,000 square feet, and you take out, say, 3,000 square feet for a building, so you're left with 26,000 square feet at 350 square foot an array. You've got 74 arrays. Now, each array is going to cost, arguably $20,000 to $30,000. So, to build something that's that expensive, I think I don't believe it's really that onerous for us to require a review. And yet I do think that there should be some minimum size that you can go ahead and install without a review, and that tends to come back to being able to support the buildings on site. But if you're opposed to that language, then pick a number, but 7 kilowatts or 14 kilowatts or some number per dwelling unit on the lot. But again, I don't think we need to have 1 or 2 big projects come in town and then realize that, oh, we really left the barn doors open here. I think that John and Tim are onto something that's important to have some review. So that was what my long-winded means of saying that.
All right, well, thank you. Eric, what are your thoughts?
What's the long-term planning? We know what we wanna do with residential systems, right? We know what we wanna do with the ones that support the house.
Right.
We know what we wanna do with those. We haven't talked about the real farms yet, and that's a much bigger piece of work.
Right.
So right now, we're talking about the ones in the middle, and are we gonna try and deal with it now, or do we wanna try
Well,
and deal
I don't
with
think we can come back to this. These are the accessory uses, so
Right.
I think this is when
It needs to
we
be.
have our chance. And the reason I'm concerned about this is because we're not putting any limitations. I mean, I can't get my head around the logic, but, in not having the limitation, because we said we were doing this as two separate things. Commercial, clearly commercial or large-scale arrays versus essentially supplying your principal use with power. So if we're not gonna have a limitation, we have language in there, it says collecting, distributing, and storing. So a very, somebody wants to have a half-acre commercial array. With the language we're presenting here, without limiting it in some way to providing for the power within the lot, I think we're really muddying the waters, and that we could have somebody who decides, well, look, you said I can store, distribute, and whatever the other word is, this, and there's no restriction on me selling it, there's no restriction on me making, turning this into essentially a half-acre solar farm. So that's why I think, I would prefer that in D, 442D, SESs are allowed as an accessory use on a lot for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot.
And then you get into a measurement problem.
What's the measurement?
David
Well, no, I
wants
think
to
in this
know what
one,
the needs
in
of
the
the
way you
lot
just
are.
worded it, though, it doesn't, there's no measurements, you're saying that it's.
That's the
mean
purpose,
the-
it's like having an
means
objective.
on the lot, but,
David doesn't, I don't think that involves David, it's simply stating for the purpose of the owner of the lot, that this is the objective or purpose.
Okay, so if I have a grow business in my basement and I'm gonna put in half an acre of solar panels, that's okay, cause that's what my lot needs,
It,
and that's not.
yeah, if
Okay.
that's your principal use, then
well,
yes,
No, that's not my principal use, that's a hobby I have in my basement.
but that's,
and- Well, I'm just saying.
what is it you're growing?
So,
What is it you're growing?
blue-green
Tomatoes.
algae, I don't know. I don't know,
Yeah, right.
but, so,
Okay,
Okay,
so
so you-
let me flip that question, so you're saying somebody could say that,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
but,
I would, I mean, if I wanted to have a big solar array, I would say, this is for my hobby in the basement, electrical trains, who knows?
okay,
And then that puts David into like, well, geez, that sounds like a lot. Is he supposed to ask for the electric bill and to see
well,
if
I
that's
would
what
say,
they
what is
use?
David supposed to do in all sorts of circumstances in
Right.
town where, I mean, this isn't any
Let's-
different.
Let's,
You-
let's ask David what he would do.
I mean, if you have it, just says to help meet the needs of the electrical or usage on the lot, I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna have to believe what you're telling me.
Right.
I have no other, nothing else to go
I
on.
think that's fine,
And so if
Okay,
you're.
and then, so it gets built and the neighbors don't like the way it looks.
that's a different issue.
So then they,
So I think the
You know.
issue is like anything in town, because there's, let's just say, there's not a lot of enforcement. It's not just this, it's the whole,
oh, yeah,
the
I
whole
got it,
ordinance.
I got it.
So let's not just say, oh, it's only this. That's how the whole thing is run. So just like with anything else, David's not knocking on doors, what did you do in your house today? But if somebody comes to David and says, I have the paperwork here that shows that this is completely bogus, that's when this comes in handy. It also notifies, I'm an optimist, I think a lot of people anyway act in good faith. And it's just telling people, this, it's like having an objective in the different districts. It's, what is this for? It's for the purpose of meeting your needs. It is not a commercial enterprise. I think it's really important.
So, one of the things that none of us really has a good sense of what the town wants. Is this something that we could put as an explicit question as we invite people to come in and give
I
us
think we would,
feedback?
I think that would definitely come up. I would say, realistically speaking, I would have a hard, if everybody came in and said, that shouldn't be there, this is a terrible thing, I would have to reconsider.
Mhm.
I think that as a matter of policy, it's so contradictory to what we're doing here and so murky, that it's just irresponsible of us.
Well, I don't buy that it's murky. I
You don't think that the commercial usage is murky?
No,
Because,
because it's very clear what we're saying.
what are we saying?
Whether that's, yes, you could put up a whole bunch of arrays.
You could put up a half-acre array.
Say, right, except for your house, right. So, that's not murky. Is that what we want to, advocate?
Well,
And
no,
so-
not if that person then reasonably interprets from our language that they can have a commercial enterprise on that half-acre lot, because the whole point was to make the distinction. And not to have large arrays with no oversight.
So, you're getting to the policy question.
I've
and-
never been away from the policy.
That's
question.
true, that's true, and you're coming back to that policy question. My preference would be not to include that. I'm not even sure if I'm sitting today, so,
You can't be on.
I can't, right.
but that's, we still want your input.
Okay,
So,
I've said my say.
okay, so
yeah.
but I wanna follow up.
Mhm.
So you don't see any murkiness, despite the fact that we wanna make a distinction, a clear distinction between commercial enterprise, and writing this in a way that would allow somebody to get around that distinction by having a half-acre array on their site. That's not murky?
The words of this amendment are clear. The outcome is what gets murky. So,
No, there's no distance
So
between those
this-
two things.
this doesn't say anything about, except for Roman numeral I, this doesn't say anything about commercial.
Roman numeral I.
Yeah,
Just the little I.
Oh, the little I as it
right.
stands, yeah,
That-
yeah.
So, we've said, we don't want commercial. This doesn't address it except in this one point.
You
So-
mean, as it stands now, as opposed to what I suggested earlier, which is that SEs are allowed as an accessory use on a lot for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot and taking out I.
Right, so,
Cause, I mean, what we were talking about really was taking out I.
well, taking out I, but including it as the accessory use.
And it's,
Yes.
as a possibility.
Right.
That's the only thing that
So
addresses.
I'm gonna withdraw, from the discussion here. I'm gonna say, how does David know whether that's for the use on the lot?
We already just went over that.
Right, and,
He doesn't, he just believes whatever the person gives him.
Unless
because-
somebody brings evidence, we just had that discussion.
But it's gonna be too late, I mean, it's gonna be built before anybody knows what's,
But it's in the law. The law is that it gives people the right, if somebody's taking advantage of it and they have proof that the person is doing something wrong.
By wrong, you mean selling it to the power company?
Getting around,
than-
having a commercial enterprise.
Right, and we're defining commercial as selling it back to the power company.
We haven't defined commercial, but essentially,
more than its use on the lot. 'Cause
it's
remember-
like having, it's more than the use of the lot.
Right, and this could be, Veracruz
Yeah.
could put up solar too, and
Right.
so it could be that it is commercial, but it
It
needs to
could
be
be, it
accessory.
can be it can be
It
business,
yeah,
let's
right,
call it
It can be
business.
business, but it's only supposed to support that
Right,
business.
that's the
principal use
distinction.
of the lot.
Yeah, but it does get really complicated, because I mean, somebody can say, well, I got 4 or 5 electric cars. I
Well,
mean,
that's
you-
okay, let them do that, and if they had 4 or 5 electric cars, I don't know, Rich might know this better, but 1,000 square feet's gonna, is a huge
or
array.
even 2,000 square feet, which is, a nice sized barn.
But maybe they, if they do, they bring in if they can show David that that's what their needs are, then.
I'm not sure they even have to, I don't think, but David will believe them.
Yeah, I have no other, I don't have a,
Right, but if someone came up to you and said, I'm gonna build a megawatt,
Right.
which is a lot.
it is.
Right, I mean.
You're
there
gonna
would be more
scratch your
to-
head, right?
I'm
And maybe
going-
ask a couple more questions and point out to them that this is the part of the ordinance that says it's illegal unless you're intending to use it on a lot.
Right,
And that's, there's,
You're not gonna handcuff them, but
right, they are under notice.
Right.
We don't have the capacity to, and I don't know that we really wanna police it on that level. We just want, it's just like having objectives throughout the zoning ordinance to let people know what the point of this is. That's why using the language for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot.
But so are you still, what about Vicky's example about growing tomatoes in her basement?
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. and
Keep adding arrays?
if it's justifiable for your use, I'm fine with it.
And, I guess another thing to say is we are going to come and clarify the language for larger arrays soon.
That's,
year.
yeah, next
And
year,
so,
but,
you know,
I mean,
I think-
larger arrays includes what can be done here. That's the
Mhm.
problem.
Well, I mean.
That's why I think it needs to be, this needs to
Yep.
be addressed now.
Good, I've said my say. I will leave it to you to decide. And it sounds like you do want to include the limitation for use on the lot.
I think I've been clear about that, I mean.
No, I mean,
this is-
it's beginning
this
to
is
sound
nothing-
like the group.
I don't know,
meeting.
I'm just, this is my last shot,
Yep.
and I'm taking it. As I said, I think this is a really important statute, and there's enough here that I'm gonna support it. I'm just speaking from my heart about what I think is good policy. If the board rejects it, I think it would be making a mistake, but I will support, out of good faith and all of us working together, I'll support the board's decision. So yes, in terms of, what I would prefer is striking I, moving everything else up, and adding the language, SES are allowed as an accessory use on a lot for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot. So let's just take a poll of the voting members. We know how both Riches feel. How do you feel?
So does that mean we're not gonna have a special exception if it's over 1,000 or whatever?
We can, well, why don't, what's your position on that? You don't want the special exception, but you would be willing,
I don't want this special exception, and and this is kind of ineffective, so, I don't, everyone's gonna tell David what they wanna do anyway, so.
I understand.
I don't, so, fine,
Okay, so you would be okay with that?
I would be okay with that, because I don't think it's gonna be enforced.
No, we already addressed that.
Okay, right, well, that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think it's gonna be enforced, so it's not gonna limit anybody.
Okay,
So, yeah,
Okay.
I'll,
you're okay with that?
yeah,
What about you?
Well, again, I think that the neighbors should have some
Well,
Some
let's,
way to have
we'll address
input.
that separately, but let's talk about,
This.
meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot.
Yeah, okay, I agree, yeah.
Eric?
I agree that that's the spirit of what we're doing. I'd like to have some oversight. I see that is not practical to have oversight. I can go along with including it with the caveat that we're gonna address it again next year, which is what we talked about, right?
Right, yeah, except just remember that, I mean, maybe we could address it retroactively, but we may not. So if let's say it's next year, we're talking about commercial stuff, and how are we going to impact this?
well, the definitions are all the same.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, that we have, you know, solar energy systems as principal uses, or those that, you know, are gonna exceed the, needs of, you know, electrical needs of the limits of the lot.
Would one,
What if I came to David and said, I've got a perfect site, it faces due south, there's plenty of exposure, nobody can see it. I wanna put in, I've got a backer, I wanna put in, you know, an acre of solar panels and sell it to the grid, and it works for me to do that. We're saying that's not gonna happen, because it's.
no, we're not.
Yeah,
You mean
because-
on this?
Yes.
Well, currently it can't happen because,
Because it's an accessory use.
and it's a.
Yeah, this is
structure
just for
size would
accessory
be-
use.
I know, but suppose, I'm saying if I wanna do this on my property, this language now would prohibit that.
Right, if he's a law-abiding person who can read plain language, he
right.
would then not be able to do what he's
And-
just.
So
Yeah,
next,
I-
so next year,
So that's my question, is are we gonna come back and address the hypothetical that I just
I would
talked
like
about?
to, well, we don't know it, I mean, we don't know what we're gonna do, but I would wanna address everything.
Well, I think we
Because
need to.
it's still an accessory use, so in some sense it belongs in this,
Yes,
which is what.
Well, is it still an
Fire.
accessory use if you're gonna do something that big?
Well,
That
commercial
goes
solar is.
beyond-
My house is still on there, right?
Yeah, but is it,
but it's,
you're
but it's
going
not, it's
beyond?
not a customary accessory use if you have a half acre,
Well, of course it's not customary, because it's new, right?
right, but it's not.
But it's customary to put in, solar to,
For your use,
for your use.
that's
It's-
not customary.
It's, you know, so if you put in a half acre and you're using all that power, then yes,
That's accessory use.
right.
So,
But if
okay,
you
so
put
in ter-
in,
yeah.
wanna put in more, which, again, you're not gonna go over the 26,000 square feet because.
Because you can't.
You can't.
But so let's say you have the 26,000 square feet and we.
That's explicitly a commercial enterprise.
So
And
we-
it's also
we
on my
could-
lot where my home
We
is.
could, in next year, since that's a concern of yours, say, you know, carve out something for that.
Yeah, but what if?
But it would,
someone-
but, I mean, to
So
the,
that's really the thing we're fighting over right now.
but the point, well,
right?
the point is that things that large need oversight.
Right.
And if you have it as, if you can do it as an accessory use, there's no oversight.
Right, that's the crux of it.
So when we
So
default.
what happens,
Well, the
and
thing
how
is
is it legal, and how can I do that anyway?
But Eric, what if somebody
Because
comes
you're
in?
allowed to.
What
How
if,
is, how can it be a commercial use if the primary use on my lot is?
Is residential.
Residential.
You
Because,
can't.
because it says, well, you could interpret it that way, because we say that we allow collecting, distributing, and storing power.
Yeah, but what he's getting at is that he's got two principal uses, and so that's how we have to write it, is that,
How do you have two
Commercial-
principal uses?
cause if he
My
has
house
his
is on the lot.
residence and he's got his power production, and what we need to do is accommodate that by saying you can have those two principal uses together.
But we're talking about next
For
year.
next year,
Yeah, okay,
yes.
but I'm talking about how that impacts this.
it couldn't,
Because
Next year, we can do anything that we feel is,
we can allow those two principal uses on the lot?
Yes, yeah, we can change
we
this.
could.
Yeah,
Okay, then I'm okay having that in there now and then coming back to it, because
Okay,
I think if there are cases like that, I don't know why we would wanna prohibit that.
yeah, I don't think anybody wants to prohibit it, but if they're that large, the point is they need oversight.
they need.
I agree,
So-
but it had begun to sound like those cases were gonna be a casualty
Well,
of the way we were writing.
But
that's,
Eric, why couldn't,
that's not something that's,
why couldn't anybody say they wanna do a half acre? They can just say, I'm gonna use all this, okay?
okay,
And
let's
then so they-
let's not get back around that.
Well,
But-
but that's the point, and then,
It's
so then,
not the
but
entire
anybody
point.
could put in a half acre.
Anybody, so, I mean, to your point, anybody could lie.
Well, not like, let's say they start out, they think they're gonna use all that, and then things change, and then they aren't using it all. They're
Okay.
not gonna tear it all down, they're still gonna have it and sell it back.
no, I know, but the thing is that what we're providing oversight in is like aesthetic impact to the neighborhood. What
Right.
really we need to do, because when you get the large installations, there's a lot of disturbance to the ground, and there's like, you know, overhead wires and.
But
and,
that's
a lot
again
of
for the
stuff.
commercial.
I understand, but you know, Hanover has an amazing array. It's a industrial installation, it's not just, you know, and it took a lot of engineering to put that together, and, you know, there's a lot of impact to that site that, you know, was overseen by.
Well, I think we're all
people, so-
agreed, or almost all of us are agreed, that when it comes to commercial, that's the whole point, was we're gonna have oversight
Right.
for that.
Right.
But let's nail this down. So it sounds like people are willing to have that language in there, whether they fully are into it or not. And in terms of the special exceptions, you don't want the special exceptions. Do you want a special exception? I know you don't. No, well, I did.
Yeah.
If, I mean, again, with the caveat that we're gonna come back and address that case,
Well, yeah,
right, with the two uses on, the two primary uses on the lot.
I'm willing to, I mean, I
Okay.
can't, there's no guarantees about
No,
who's
no
on the
guarantees.
board and, you know, what's happening. But, yeah, that I thought was the whole, was the
Yeah,
whole point.
that's been the game plan.
That was the whole point from the beginning.
Right, but again, you know, I mentioned, or, you know,
That's
the
specific.
residential ones we want, the commercial ones we know we can't deal with yet.
Yeah.
And there's been these ones in the middle that were.
Right,
were the
so,
ones we're
so a
talking about now.
huge array on an accessory use lot can't happen now, but we can address that next year.
Well,
Wh-
well,
which would be-
it can happen now,
It
but
can.
we're gonna disallow it now. Right, cause we could build it right now if we wanted to, so
Right.
it can happen now, but we're gonna change it.
Yeah, you can put a half an acre,
We
and say
can,
it's
I
an
could,
accessory
I
use.
could,
What do you mean we're gonna you lost me there.
right now
It's
it's
not
allowed.
regulated.
It's
Yeah,
unregulated,
I
right
could say, right now, if somebody came to me and said, I wanna take all my remaining lot coverage, cover it with solar panels.
You would allow it,
I would have to allow
under
it.
this language.
There's no.
Or not under this
doesn't
language,
have-
as it is, was,
On the
Oh, as it
right
is
now.
now, yeah, okay, yeah, forget about that.
So with this language, then I'm going to say, is this for your own use?
Right,
And if they say yes,
then
Then-
they're okay,
Okay.
I allow it.
okay. Yes, so we will I mean, I would come back next year and wanna address anything that's, I would like large arrays to be feasible, with oversight.
So- And by large, you're saying over half an acre.
I'm saying over 1,000, you know.
We're saying larger than is used on a lot, that's what we're saying,
Yes,
Larger than,
than what is used
used
on
on
a
a
lot.
lot.
yeah,
And you may also
Which
want to
may be
address.
different based on
right.
who's
Well,
living
but
in the house.
we're gonna, I mean, who knows exactly where we're gonna land on that? You know, I don't think any of us can
understand
say.
that. I understand.
But in terms of the basic premise, I think was the whole point from the beginning, to split it in two parts. And you're saying, you know, this is something caught in the middle,
Yes,
there's no reason why we can't address that small subset, cause it's not gonna be large.
no, it's not gonna be large, but that, we don't know what the economies of scale are for these types of projects.
We don't.
And there might be a benevolent landowner who just says,
Yeah,
I wanna do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we would wanna.
I don't know why either.
We don't,
No, I don't know
but
why.
right now
either.
we are, so we need to,
Well, but for a reason.
right. But we do need to, if we wanna permit that, we need to make sure we go back and do it.
Well, I put it in the minutes that it is our intention to come back and,
Address small commercial arrays on residential.
on
lots.
yeah,
Okay, so we're saying right now that anybody can put up to half an acre on their property.
if they say that,
Well, if they wanna do it, they're gonna say it, so
Well,
they can do it,
but-
and then, so,
yeah.
okay, so then, and we're saying that we want a special
I mean,
exception.
what I said at the beginning is my preference is for that language that we're saying is okay, and for a special exception, and I think Vicky's point is reasonable, you know, that we would need to give guidance.
For anything over, what?
Well, I mean, what I chose based on actually what Rich's numbers was anything over 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
I guess I did say,
Huh?
I guess I did say 1,000, yeah, right, I'm looking
Yeah.
back at my note.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So
I mean, 1,000 square feet is very generous.
Right.
But people are gonna be buying electric cars, you're gonna find families of 5, and all of a sudden the kids are in high school and they have 3 electric cars, and like, the actual size limit is gonna,
Yeah.
it's gonna be an
It'd be
issue
constraining.
eventually.
Well, the other thing is, and to Rich Menge's point about talking about limiting by kilowatt hours per lot, and I think that that's fraught with problems
Yeah,
too.
well, we're not,
So, yeah, I know.
we're not going
I
down.
know, but I don't like having to parse it out that way.
So,
I think this is a good compromise.
and not,
And I would support that language as well,
okay, the one,
in order to move it along.
okay. So that, the compromise that I'm getting the sense of is that there would be no special exceptions but this language.
Yep,
Correct.
And is everybody, can everybody handle that? I mean, I'm telling you, for myself, I still think it's a mistake, but I will support it.
So what's the
So
mistake?
there's no special exception, I mean, there's no oversight.
There's no oversight.
Well,
anything
would you
even-
prefer limiting it based on square footage?
Well, I told you what I wanted.
Is that what you want? I don't remember.
I said anything over 1,000 square feet requires a special exception.
Right. Yeah, we have to.
So you would like that,
Well, yeah.
and you would
we
like
have
that.
to.
No, I would not like that.
You would not like it. Okay, so it's 2-2, because Ben isn't here.
I think we've already compromised a fair amount.
I do too.
Yeah,
And
I think you have,
I
and
think the
I'm
for
willing,
use on a
I'm
lot is a
willing,
good- is a
I'm
good
willing
compromise.
to drop, doing the right thing. Just kidding, just kidding, that was a joke, you can't see me laughing, my mask is laughing. But yeah, I'm willing not to do the right thing and come together, kumbaya. So,
And with public input, we may.
We may change that.
We may change that.
all right, so we have,
If we can communicate that issue effectively.
Yeah.
Which will take a lot.
it will be, it's hard,
Yeah.
it's
Well, on
hard.
the other side of it is the energy committee could come out and go, why are you limiting this and why?
But
isn't
the
this
energy,
more, you know?
we have had
I know,
a
I know,
tremendous
but-
amount of input from the energy committee,
I
which
understand.
has been extraordinary. But we are now in the next stage where we have to make the decisions.
Right, I understand, but in terms of public response, there could be a lot of people that feel like, you know, this is limiting and we're not going far enough, so I wouldn't say
Then
it's
then
gonna
we
be.
take it out. If
Yeah.
people really.
But just
want to
because
know.
there's a special exception doesn't mean they can't do it. All it is
I
letting the
understand.
neighbors have some input.
Yeah, I
And
mean-
maybe they can say, well, we'd like to have it screened here.
I think,
So without having any
I understand.
input, it's
look,
a problem.
I know people
I understand.
people tend to bring in or try to get people to come in who agree with their
Yes, they do.
point of view.
That's politics.
And that's politics, and that's the way it works. That said, I was surprised with the people I spoke to who are like gung-ho solar. They wanted solar, and it was like, of course, anything big, I want oversight, period. And I feel strongly about it. So, you know, who knows?
Right.
So,
Anyway, we're agreed for the time being, this is the language we're gonna send, and then we'll get our feedback. If it's not convincing feedback, then this will probably stand. If we get some really, even if one person says something that disagrees with everybody else, but everybody, or a lot of people on the board go, you know what? That's a really good point, we'll change it.
Yep,
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I would like to move this, in honor of my bloody nose, this bloody language. Let's make sure we have it right. So we're taking out I, so we're just gonna have a new I, which is the building footprint,
right, yep.
and the double I,
Mhm.
which will be the building footprint of the
Yep,
you know what I mean, right?
Yep.
Yep,
renumber,
Okay, so renumber,
yep,
and the D becomes, as Rich Brown suggested, solar energy systems are allowed as an accessory use on a lot, take out the period, for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot. So, let me know when you're done, David. So this is, I'm not getting my dream will not come true.
Well, let's take a step back. People have had 20 years to build these things and no one has, you know?
Right,
It's
yeah,
not gonna happen anyway.
well, things are gonna
Yeah, I
change,
think
I think things
that's-
are gonna
It's already
change
changed, but-
much quicker than you might imagine.
No, I think
But
you're right,
anyway,
Eric.
here-
There's not gonna be many instances of this, if any.
right.
But you never know. Anyway, here we are, we've done this, and I would like to make a motion to send this what is the proper motion, to send this language to a hearing?
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Vicky seconds, all those in favor with just 4 voting
Do we
members
need to
tonight?
say the date of the hearing?
After,
Okay, yes.
Okay, all right, so that passes, that's gonna go to the hearing. And, Rich Brown supported it. I hope, Rich Mengy, I know it's not what you wanted, but I hope you can live with it.
I can live with it.
Okay, so we're all gonna live for a little longer. So, now we need to set, a date. What do you suggest, David?
About January sixth.
January 6th.
Is that a third?
Is that our next meeting? No,
We don't have our next meeting, 'cause it's gonna, well, it's the 23rd would be our next meeting.
which we're not gonna do? Well, what do people wanna do? Do you wanna,
Well, we can't have the hearing.
We can't have a hearing now?
No.
on the 23rd.
no, so we'll skip our next meeting? Do people wanna have a meeting on the 23rd?
Well, unless we have
We can
somebody come
meet
in.
without having a hearing, that's fine.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
But do we need to, unless there's another hearing that comes in, right, David? I mean, if there's somebody that,
I have, because of the, Christmas is on a Saturday, the federal holiday is on the following day, the 24th. So I have the 24th off, and then I have that following week off. So it just means I need to come in sometime during the 5 days after that meeting and make sure the minutes are done. So that's, I just need to adjust my time off.
Okay, so the question is to the board, do we wanna keep our meeting for the 23rd? What do people think?
I can't be
I don't-
present,
Okay,
so
what do you
I'm
think?
not coming.
I mean, I can come, but if there's nothing, if we don't have anything to do, really, unless David gets another hearing, another person that wants to do something.
It's too
And you
late.
don't,
Too late to,
Too late.
21 days.
No,
Is
we're
it?
only
We're not doing the
doing
hearing,
that.
then the hearing's gonna be on the 6th, right? So why are we meeting on the 23rd?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
yeah, that's what I'm.
Okay.
Okay,
That makes good sense, and besides, my kids are right there.
right, well, but that's
I
the
could come if I
point.
had to, but I
Bring
don't
him
know
to the
Yeah,
why.
but that's, yeah, right.
I can invite him.
But
Yeah,
that,
bring
but that's the
everybody in.
point, is
Right.
it's very close to Christmas and.
I like the idea of the 6th because we get a public, if there's no other magic happening on the 6th, we could then meet at our regular date on the 13th if we need to make any revisions.
Or the 6th is not a regular meeting?
Let me just,
No, it's the first Thursday.
Well-
Right, 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 okay.
let me just run out to the other room for
But-
one quick second
Yep.
to double check that this room is open.
But let me ask you this question before you do that, but if we met on, our regular thing is the 13th?
Yes,
So if we met on the 13th and we have to change it, we still have time, don't we?
We don't have time,
No?
no.
yeah, because you're,
You have to meet on the 6th.
Okay, then we have to meet on the
In order to do
6th.
the
Yeah, that would be
27th,
better.
Okay,
yeah.
Ah, okay. So we meet on the 6th.
well, David's
Yeah.
gotta check the thing, but we
Yeah,
need
let
to
me-
meet before.
Go ahead,
Just
David.
take me a minute
We
to-
won't say anything interesting.
okay.
What about them Red Sox?
Well, you're right, you didn't say anything interesting. I'm
So
a Yankee
the,
fan, sorry.
So,
Sorry.
if we meet on the 6th, we
That's
have
the
the public hearing. If everybody is torches and pitchforks, we can work to revise it, and then we have a public hearing again on the, whatever, 27th.
It would be the 27th?
Yeah, because we
So
can't,
then what's the problem with the 13th?
because it doesn't give you enough time to change it and get the notice in. It's not just 2
Oh, it's not
weeks.
noticeable, okay,
Right,
oh,
yeah,
I get it,
yeah, Yeah, because
okay.
we have to
I
renotice
get
it.
it, I get it, yeah, right, good point. Okay, yeah, so the 1/6 or whatever David can get the room for will be the hearing.
Well, we could meet at, maybe at the fire station too, if this room is,
And then 1/27 is the second hearing if needed.
yeah.
All right,
Do we think this room will be big enough? for the public hearing?
Well, you know,
Wouldn't that be delightful?
I sure hope not.
I'll tell you, I
About
would,
Tom's gonna read it?
I would prefer that people, I mean, anybody who wants to come is obviously welcome, but I would prefer that people,
Stayed on Zoom.
stayed on Zoom, because
Yeah.
Sure.
Omicron and Delta are not things
Not gone yet.
we wanna share.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
No, I've heard so
So-
many people getting exposed. It's-
Well, I know,
it's kinda
I
weird.
heard, now know people who have died from it, so, it's really, that's kinda, you know,
That's
changes things.
Yep.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, New Hampshire's almost number one in the country.
It's the number one
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of rate
We-
per population.
Oh, we're famous, that's great.
I
Yeah.
know.
We're number
Was it
one.
60% of ICU beds or 70%
Yeah,
of
I
ICU
mean,
beds are
it's just
COVID,
unbelievable.
and 85% of those are unvaccinated.
Unvaccinated, right.
So I
Yeah.
think when we're speaking to people and encouraging them to give us feedback, if you feel okay about it, you might wanna say, it would be great if you kept your distance and phoned in, or,
Yeah.
I don't know if we can say that, but.
well, you can.
No, we want people to participate, and it's, you know, Zoom is an option, so.
Zoom is an option.
I have been putting the
Yes.
link and
Yeah, I
the
know.
phone numbers in all the announcements.
thank you.
So how's 1/6 look?
She does not have a calendar for January,
Okay.
so I put a note on her calendar and said, we're taking the room.
Good.
Yeah, and if
We're
there's,
first.
if there's a problem,
Yeah, I'll check with her tomorrow, so. it
and
should
we'll,
be-
we'll move it somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right, so the next thing is how to word
To,
our,
Vote to,
didn't we already did that?
or is that part of your vote for the?
Oh, we can vote for that too.
the-
All right, so the
hold hearing?
same four people, I would like to make a motion that we schedule the hearing for 1/6/22. Is there a second?
Second,
Vicky again gets the second. All those in favor, okay, so it's unanimous. Okay, so now we
You wanna
move,
just, while you're in the motion, also say the 27th if needed, just so it's on the.
that's fine with me.
That works.
No, it's included in that. All right, we can go through it again. I'd like to make a motion that should it be necessary, the 27th will be blah, 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 blah. You second, Vicky seconds, and everybody else. All right, so now we move to our announcement.
Yeah.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
What's the one here?
Anyway, seriously, I would like to thank everybody on the board for coming together on that and getting a consensus. Everybody gave a little. So we probably have a better ordinance than we would have if we all got our own way. All right, so let's go, well, we had three inputs. Tim said, I'll leave your other comment out of the discussion
The
for the
last
time.
part, yeah, that was,
Yes, I understood. The planning board is holding a public hearing on 1/6/22 to discuss proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance concerning the installation of solar.
Sorry.
you guys.
He got down to the.
Oh, you
bottom
just
here.
read
I
it?
finally read it all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay.
You missed it.
All right, the planning board is holding a public hearing on 1/6/26 to discuss proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance concerning the installation of solar energy systems in Lyme. The current proposal is to treat solar energy systems the same as accessory structures. Is that true?
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
it's exactly-
Therefore, the only restrictions would be setbacks and lot coverage, i.e. they could be installed almost anywhere in town.
I disagree with that.
Okay, how would you phrase
I
it?
would, Okay.
Well, now
I
we
was
look
just
at the
trying to
other-
get
Keep
people.
reading, yeah, and, I mean, you know, I'll, go ahead, keep reading, yeah.
I think it's inflammatory.
What?
I do too.
I think it's inflammatory.
Yeah, well, that's
You
what I
think,
wanted.
what? I can't hear you.
I think it's inflammatory.
Okay,
Yeah, but see, I was trying to get people to
so,
come to the
so,
meeting, so.
well,
But you're trying to
okay,
get a certain.
okay, so
Well,
hold
I'm
on.
trying to make.
Which part, you know, anywhere in town?
The current proposal is, therefore, blah, 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 therefore, the only restrictions will be setbacks and lot coverage. i.e. they
As
can
is
be
the
installed
case for garages
almost
and
anywhere in
sheds.
town.
Well, it's not
So-
just,
Yeah,
you know, you have, issues with, conservation districts.
Right.
So it's not, and well, granted setback from the conservation district, but still, it,
Okay, so,
yeah,
I
I
just-
agree,
so I'll put this aside for now.
okay.
I would just say that, you know, instead of saying, just limiting yourself to those two things, say, it would have to meet the same requirements as any other structure under the zoning.
Such as a garage or shed.
Right. You know,
Okay.
that would be.
So then would everybody feel okay about it if that was
Yeah,
added?
So,
well, some of that would be taken out, but.
Well, yeah, so take out, they could be installed over anywhere. I mean, I was doing that to try to,
right,
you know, I was taking little liberties there to try to get people interested to come, you know, so.
Okay, so this is a possibility with altered language.
yeah.
Okay, Rich, oh, you wanted to say something?
Sure, we don't have to read, maybe everybody's read it already. I think the thing that we wanna do is, the high points of what we wanna say, I'm specifically focused on the listserv here. The high points we wanna say is, we need your input, we need you to look and think about this. There's a teeny blurb about what we're up to, and then I list the 3 questions there. And I think that's a fair summary, but I certainly would entertain any
Well,
changes in
I mean,
wording.
I think we're, all of us, you know, tilted the table towards
Yeah,
what we
sure,
want,
right,
and I think you did too.
Maybe, and so.
I'm not biased.
But, yeah, and so, in the interest of not getting too many pitchforks and torches, but getting in
Yeah.
engagement, I wanted to lay out what I think are the 3 issues.
Okay,
And-
what are the 3 issues?
Well, it's,
Do you support allowing as a matter of right?
well, okay, and so, without.
I mean, that's
That's inflammatory.
that is inflammatory.
Okay.
Well, no, that's a very valid term for
That's a
zoning,
term
but
of art.
it's, you know,
It is
it's-
a term of art,
Yeah,
but
but
nobody
that's not,
understands
but
that.
Okay.
that's, yeah, explain it.
So, all right, so the 3 points that I wanted to say is, do you support just letting them any place other similar size structures can be? The second is accessory use only, you can't do development, you can't have your own solar farm. And the third
Well,
is,
wait,
No, we don't want
no.
that, that's not what's proposed though, so we don't,
it was I wanted to bring in the notion of accessory use, that's all. And if there's a better way to say that, that's okay. And the third point is the one we just went through, do we want it limited to the use of the electrical needs of the lot? So those are the 3,
Yeah, except
points
that I would use the actual language, which doesn't say limited to, it says for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs of the lot,
so
which is
I
far
think-
more
I think those are the
affirmative.
3 high points that we would really like public input on. I mean, if people come in and say, you should never, ever allow solar panels in town, okay, thank you very
Nobody's gonna
much.
say that.
But,
I get what you're saying.
so that's where I was going.
Okay.
And I'm happy to have, comments and accept modifications to those.
Well, I think it's a good, you know, that is what we wanna do. We wanna break it down as simply as possible.
Oh, I lied, and then there's one more thing, which is the backgrounder, the background information could either be attached to the bottom of this email, or it could be a separate document that just says, oh yeah, here's some facts about solar panels that may help you understand it. So
That's a possibility.
yeah, okay.
It would be interesting if that fax thing could be linked to the Energy Committee's page or
Sure.
something like that,
Yep.
so that, you click and, oh, Lyme Energy Committee, this is what they say, not what the planning board says.
Mhm.
Because we, it'd be
Yeah,
good to have somebody
actually,
else
that's
providing those
a good
facts.
point.
Mhm.
But
I think the last point on the facts about the cost and the payback, I don't think we need that, I don't think we should be talking about those things, because that's really just not our job, our business, our.
Well, that's why I'm saying credit it to somebody else,
Mhm.
Energy
mean-
Committee, you're on the Energy Committee, right?
No,
Oh,
Nope.
okay.
Well, if people wanna, I don't see how it's
I mean,
really relevant to the
one of
land
the-
issue.
one of the problems that I think people are gonna have is like, well, you know, I see the solar flex tracker things and how much is that? How much, does that supply like their dryer, or does that supply 3 houses, or what? And, you know, I mean, I don't think people know these
No,
things,
no,
and
people-
so I
people
I
don't.
think giving them objective information that they can use to say, oh.
Well, let's hold off on that
Yeah,
and
okay.
get the actual body of the thing.
Yep.
So, a couple of concerns that I have,
Mhm.
which are also, I will say right up front, they're clearly tilted towards
Go ahead.
me. One is, well, the first thing is I want people to understand, when they're looking at this in context, they need to understand that we're dealing with commercial arrays next year.
Mhm.
So, because a lot of people might come in and say, well, what about, you know, if I wanna have a solar farm, or are you gonna let people do something that big, you know? I think we
Mhm.
need,
I think you need to give a little bit of background.
right,
Basically, you know, in your announcement saying, here's some background, the planning board is currently working towards adding solar to the zoning ordinance. This year, we would like to add these definitions and make sure that it's clear that accessory use of solar is allowed.
so
And then-
what about the proposed amendment allows for solar energy systems to cover up to the maximum available lot coverage on a lot. Commercial and other larger arrays like solar farms, LEADs, and group net metering are set to be addressed next year.
Yep, that's,
Is that okay with everybody?
So the concern I have is,
What are LEADs?
Those are, like, the town could, I think that, I've gotten so many different definitions, but I think that's the thing, where like the town could have their own,
You need to spell it out, cause,
Okay,
you
so
know,
that
just
would have-
whatever the acronym is, spell it out, so.
Okay.
Some of us.
So-
and, you know, to be honest with you, I would get rid of everything after solar farms, because I think the
Yes.
average
Okay.
person looking at this is
okay,
going to.
how about solar farms and other large arrays?
Yep, I just think
I
that,
think that's a good,
you know,
good
So
thing.
not that I don't wanna say
commercial,
dumb it down,
solar
but
farms,
just,
Commercial farms,
comma, solar farms.
I mean, so wait, so what?
Commercial, comma, solar farms and other large arrays.
What were you-
I'm with David, I think after solar farms, we could just put a period.
Okay,
It's an example of.
Like solar farms, okay, are set to be, okay,
because it doesn't matter how the power is being generated or how it's being accounted for.
Yep.
It's a large set of solar arrays in a field. That's what people are
so,
looking
okay,
at, not how the power itself. I don't think people really care.
gotcha. I think, so the proposed amendment allows for solar energy systems to cover up to the maximum available lot coverage on a lot. Commercial and other large arrays like solar farms are set to be addressed next year.
Yep.
Okay,
the problem with the first sentence is nobody knows what the maximum available.
well,
lot
yeah,
coverage
but
is.
that's why they have to come to the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't just,
I also
Yeah,
think
people are
the first sentence is, this is your, I think that's inflammatory.
okay, okay. And I think you're being inflammatory. No, so what way is it inflammatory?
Because it leads people to believe that everyone can just go build them, right, without any oversight. I know we talked about this.
Well, there is no
But this-
oversight.
it would be against the law if it was not designed.
Okay, so how would you fix it?
I would take the language from our proposed amendment.
And what language would you take?
Proposed amendment allows for solar energy systems to cover up to the maximum available lot coverage on a lot. If they are, or take out the maximum available and say, where is our amendment? Get the, for the needs on the lot, use that language.
I would like to, rather than getting technical with that announcement, to say, just like a garage or shed.
To cover up to the maximum available lot coverage, just like
As is the case for a garage or
As-
shed, or, you
on a
know,
lot, as is,
the case for,
I would just say any other structure, so then
for
you're,
any,
Yeah.
As-
any other.
is,
About the current proposal regulates
Yeah.
SESs using the same rules applied to other structures.
Right,
well, I'm not gonna be able to write that down because I've already forgotten what you said.
Well, I've got it written down, so.
Okay, so what are you saying?
The current proposal regulates SESs using the same rules applied to other structures.
yes.
Okay,
That sounds good.
In addition, we need to say, in addition,
commercial and other large arrays like solar farm, commercial and other larger arrays like solar farms are set to be addressed next year.
Yes,
So put those two together.
commercial and other,
Large arrays like solar farms are set to be addressed next year.
Yes, so people may not come to the meeting if they wanna.
Well, we're doing the best we can here.
and we also need a sentence about the, up to the needs on the lot, right?
Read what you have, didn't you have
And
something
the
like?
current proposal regulates SESs using the same rules applied to other structures, provided that
Yes,
the SES is limited to,
it's not limited, it is, the language is that the SES is for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot.
the SES is for,
It's for the purpose of meeting
electrical needs within the lot,
within the limits of the lot,
lot limits.
because that's what we put in there.
The language I wrote down is the electrical needs within the lots.
All right, what I said over and over, but.
I have within the limits of the,
Okay.
what I had written down and what I was, how I was going to update it.
Yeah, well, that's what we voted for, so,
Yeah, that's what we voted for, we can change it.
I just wrote it down.
Okay, I mean, it really doesn't matter,
right.
It means the same thing.
same thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so we got that, what else do we want?
I think somewhere in this, you have to put the sentence, do you feel there should be any aesthetic oversight of solar energy systems? Because that's the whole crux of the
well,
whole
we
thing.
could list, I like Rich's idea of having specific questions.
Yeah, but I think you have to say, do you feel there should be?
So
any
this is your
That could-
chance.
That could be- that could be one of them,
Eric's agreeing with you,
Of solar
Yeah.
energy system, okay.
yeah.
so
Why
what,
don't we put it in a positive, we are not proposing any aesthetic control over these, and just leave it at that.
okay,
And then if they are
Yeah.
angry
Right.
about
Mhm.
that, they can come,
That's fine
and
with
if
me.
they aren't, they, so,
I guess, yeah.
well, it's the same thing,
well, it's,
Well, it's not quite the same thing.
no,
yeah.
but no, this is telling what the proposal is,
right,
Right.
so,
and I wouldn't say we, is it we?
So,
the
okay,
planning
so,
board,
The planning board,
okay, the current amendment does not propose,
any aesthetic control,
Oversight.
oversight,
Oversight of solar energy systems.
right.
Okay.
and,
aesthetic, what's the hard word to spell?
AESTACTIC.
Yeah, as is the case for other structures in town.
Right.
well,
Right.
that's getting a little inflammatory for me.
Well,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
that's
because
my point.
that's, yeah, I know that's your point of view, but let's just leave it
Well-
neutral.
So, I mean, in the first sentence that you have, the proposed amendment, allows coverage up to the, I don't remember the exact word.
Maximum available lot coverage on a lot, as is the case, blah, blah, blah.
As is the case for
But
other
did we leave it, we took
structures.
that out, didn't we? You wrote new language.
I didn't write it down.
But, yeah, so it's not in there.
I support taking that sentence out.
Yeah, we took it out.
Okay.
So, I mean, just as it does for other structures, and I'd like to say such as a shed or garage. But,
It's every other structure.
Yeah,
It's
I
any
think
other-
there's no
it's
reason
any
to,
other-
Garage, chicken
Alright,
coop,
alright.
barns.
So what's the, I know what the first thing said.
David, do we have a projector?
no, I do, I
So
seriously, I've asked the
what
select
is
board
this,
multiple
what is the
times.
second
Mr.
thing
Chairman,
say?
point of order, can we ask the select board?
Yes,
You can ask
we
whatever
have,
you want.
and we will continue.
The current proposal regulates SESs using the same rules applied to other structures, provided that the SES is for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the lot. Commercial and other large arrays like solar farms are,
Set to be addressed next year,
let's say, not permitted and set to be addressed next year.
are not permitted.
They're not permitted.
They're not permitted.
Right.
We're right
So read it again, you just
It
lost
says
me.
commercial and other large arrays like solar farms are set to be addressed next year. Whatever.
Yeah,
The
So-
current amendment does not propose any aesthetic oversight of SESs.
As is the case with other structures in town.
No, you can't put that in there.
Well, it's the truth.
It is the truth.
But I
well, it's
think
also the truth
confusing.
without it. I mean, the question is how, we're all trying to tilt it our own ways.
Yeah.
So to try to keep it neutral, do we wanna ask, we have this nice declarative paragraph that says, this is what we're talking about, this is what we're thinking about. I think it is useful to call out questions for people's consideration.
We already agreed on it.
And-
Oh, you mean
and but-
instead of declarations?
Well, we've got the declaration to say, we're thinking about this.
I don't think it matters whether we phrase it as a question or a
I think
declaration.
we're all accusing each other of push polling with the questions, so we should try and do it.
Yeah, let's
Well-
do a dragnet, just the facts, man.
Okay,
Never had any trouble with them before.
so
They got to be
will,
alternative.
My name's Friday,
right,
this is
will,
Saturday.
will your average knowledgeable Lyme resident understand why we need their feedback?
Why we need their feedback? Yes.
The
what I
specifics
think-
of the feedback that we are
What
requesting.
I think we can't expect, nor would it be reasonable for us to understand, to expect, is for them to understand things that we've been working over.
Mhm.
I can tell you before I got into this racket, and I used to look at the zoning amendments and things, I had no idea what it meant.
Mhm.
And I would go up to other people and say, what do I do here? So I think the point is, we wanna get people in. I know that we're all gonna raise our pet issues.
Right, I mean,
And we'll elicit the questions, so.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get a certain group of people who wanna come to the meeting. I don't think you're going to, historically, I've been doing this for only 12 years, so,
Yeah.
Does that make you an
historically,
expert?
what?
Does that make you an expert?
Yeah.
No, but my experience, you're gonna get, no more than a dozen people. Hopefully with Zoom, we might get a little bit more.
If we got 20, it would be phenomenal. If
It
we
would
got
be-
more, it would be greater.
And then, once you have the people in the room, you get Jack from the inn, stand up there.
No,
I already asked him to come, he said no.
No, and then I
And
think,
you
I think,
basically say, here's what we're doing, and we wanna know what your input is.
and all of
start
us,
having a
all of us
conversation.
are gonna ask the questions that we're interested
Yeah,
in,
and then, Rich, you ask your questions,
I'm
John,
gonna
you
ask my
yours, Vicky,
question.
ask yours, and.
Vicky's gonna push for those structures.
No, I think it's wrong for us to push those questions and to make it provocative at all. We've come to a consensus
Yeah, I agree,
offering
I agree.
for the public to consider. And I think it's just like I was having a hard time with your blog over something.
Mhm.
It's like, you're on the board, we voted, although you weren't technically voting, but you conceded that this was the best we could do, and that we should not be driving private agendas at all.
Well, we're going,
You get a point in the audience to drive
no,
your
no,
agenda,
I'm
but
not.
don't you do that.
I'm not gonna get into the, other stuff, but I am interested, I would ask questions, well, do you know, about oversight, do you want, is anybody here concerned about oversight? There's nothing
Okay,
wrong with that.
and what is meant by oversight? It means that the zoning board's gonna look at this, or what? What does that mean?
That's what,
So
that's a
we can't-
possibility.
We can't use the, I mean, as a shorthand, let's be more specific. Personally for me, I care mostly about installation, the byproducts and disruption that happens during installation. So, small scale and large scale, because things
But
aren't
this
regulated
is
at
the
all.
first I've heard that you were concerned about
Well,
small
I am.
scale. This is the first time
Well,
I'm hearing it.
Okay, well, I'm not suggesting that we throw that in, but yes, I am concerned about site impacts. 'Cause
Okay,
people-
well, I would've agreed with
We
you.
can't regulate residential, which most of these are gonna be residential.
Okay, and in
So-
any case, so I agree with you that, the announcement, I mean, I like the idea, I mean, you had brought up the, and I see the value in, ask these questions, that's gonna get people to come. But we're all gonna, just end up arguing about how to phrase them. I think that just the facts, ma'am, get the people in here, and if we need to prompt them, we
Right.
should prompt them.
Right. Yep.
And we have people with a range of views that have managed to come together to support the existing language, which is really good work on everybody's part. And if we all have, our little shades of differences, and that's our opportunity to talk to the town.
But, I do think that, we do not get good attendance at these things. This language is about as dry and dull.
Well, then we,
As I can think of, I think of my kids who come home from school in sort of fifth grade, and their teachers are telling them, you need an opener, and then you need a hook, right, to get people to like pay attention and read on.
okay, so here's the
You know,
opener.
How do we get people to come? 'Cause we want
Here's the
people to come.
opener.
Free beer.
Yeah, free beer, and, I mean, what do you want as an opener? Let me put it that way.
So,
Do you want Lyme to be covered with some?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, right, thank you, Jeff.
what
That's-
are we, because
I
that's,
think global warming is
Yeah,
real.
so,
Oh,
so
come on.
maybe like the first two lines of my note are sufficiently, not uninflammatory subject.
oh, come on, oh,
The planning board
surely
needs
you
your
jest.
advice.
Yeah.
And then that's the subject line, solar panels, the planning board needs your advice.
your input and.
It's actually I'd say the horse is out of the barn. We want your comments,
Yeah,
not your
we want your
advice.
comments.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we
We
want,
need your comments.
Comments, yes,
Comments.
the
Lots
Lyme
of
Planning Board
comments.
needs your comments.
right. And then the
They
opening
won't-
sentence.
They won't read anything more after that.
Well, so the Lyme Board wants your comments on proposed,
About the proposed, solar energy system
amendments,
amendment.
Yep.
regulating.
No, it's
No,
not.
Not regulated.
That is
End of
repetitive.
sentence, end of sentence.
Yeah.
Wait,
The
what
proposed
sentence
solar
is this?
energy system.
And then you have the other language.
It wants your comments on solar energy systems?
No.
No, on the
it means solar
proposed zoning
panels.
amendment,
Solar energy system.
solar energy system, solar amendment. A sentence,
Zoning amendment.
Oh, God.
Solar energy system zoning amendment.
Can we
It's
just call it
the
a
blood
zoning
loss.
amendment about solar panels?
What?
Can we call it a zoning amendment about solar panels?
Yes, we
Just
can.
Yeah.
keeping it
Yes.
dialed.
Okay, okay,
Plus
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's a good idea.
No, that's good.
SES.
No, but
It-
solar panels, don't use SES.
Yeah.
I think we need to keep it fairly simple,
Yes,
safe.
I think that's
People
a
aren't
good
gonna
thing.
read it if it's.
And then Eric's paragraph that seems to make sense.
Facts.
It seems to,
Yes.
but that's just because we're delirious.
Right. And,
And then please join us to discuss.
right.
How
You know,
How
I would-
about the highlights
Say,
of the amendment, of the proposed amendment are?
Right, so you can read the current draft at wasn't
are,
such a link.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So what are you putting in there that
this is
we
the
don't
opening
know?
sentence, the Lyme Planning Board wants your comments on a proposed zoning amendment about solar panels. The highlights of the proposed amendment are, and then the three things we talked about.
Facts, yep.
Right,
Mhm.
please join us to discuss these matters.
Well, okay, what about,
Light refreshments will be served, and
You-
we can all
what
bring the
about-
leftover cookies and get rid of them.
there will be aesthetic oversight, we have to put that.
Well,
It's
we're,
in there.
we're,
It's one
in
of the
there.
highlights.
Oh, it is?
Actually,
I
it's
didn't
not a
read it.
highlight, but
Yep.
Okay.
So after
That's
the
for you, Tim.
highlights, I would
Yeah.
wanna say you can include a link,
Well, that's
here's
not-
here's a link to the current draft.
right,
Public input concerning this would be most appreciated, please try to attend.
Or not, I mean, no, we want them to, like.
yeah, not necessarily.
My.
Yeah, I think we should say, in-person attendance is available
Right,
and, or how do we say that?
well, David can do all it.
both
David
in
can-
person
Try to
and
attend.
virtual.
Yeah, so you'll be
Either.
responsible for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you read, could you,
I would like to do is, you're adding some to section 442. I would like to put that into some context, that you're not adding section 442, you're adding section D of 442. So
Right,
I
Right.
will,
right.
I will write it up in such a way that it looks more
Ah,
like
that
a,
it's simply in addition
Add to
to.
section 442
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
the following new
right, the new
new paragraph.
new paragraph will be added to section D of 442,
Mhm.
Yep,
just to,
yep,
Okay.
that's good.
in that way.
Yep.
Because when they see it on the ballot, it's gonna have to,
right, it'll have the old stuff. in
it'll
it.
have the old stuff and then the
Right.
new highlighted.
So could you read back one final time what you?
Okay.
Yeah,
The Lyme Planning Board wants your comments on a proposed zoning amendment about solar panels. The highlights of the proposed amendment are bullet one, or bullet, number them, bullet. The current proposal regulates SESs, regulates solar panels.
Mhm.
It's actually not accurate to say that.
That's true, but,
It's solar energy systems, I would just spell out so, because it's not true.
okay, so we'll say solar energy systems.
if you just say SES, I will, when you send that to me, I will expand it
The
all.
current proposal regulates solar energy systems using the same rules applied to other structures, provided that the SES is for the purpose of meeting the electrical needs within the limits of the law. Commercial and other large arrays like solar farms are set to be addressed next year. The current amendment does not propose any aesthetic oversight of SESs. I think that's inflammatory, now that I read it out loud. The current draft of the amendment can be found here.
All right, be that as it may,
And then an invitation, please join us, that there's a public hearing at such and such a date and time, and
so David's gonna
Yep.
do that, okay. So can we agree on this?
And then, do we also wanna say, if you can't attend, email your questions to David, to zoning?
Your comments.
Comments.
Your comments.
And I will give you 20 emails that say I support solar energy.
No, I know.
It's okay,
Right,
So
But
that's
that-
awesome.
and that's fine.
it's okay.
Okay, so we're done.
I'm gonna send this to David.
Send it to who?
David,
All right,
And then did we say we're not gonna provide this background information?
I think if we're gonna do something, we should provide a link to the, you had said to the
Lyme Energy Committee,
Lyme Energy Committee.
If they have that information.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is,
So what do they have?
I don't know.
Do they have a
haven't,
website?
I am no longer in charge of updating the webpage, so I
Well,
don't.
congratulations.
yeah, congratulations.
Well, I got the same memo as all the department heads saying I was no longer doing it. It's like, oh, okay.
I think that the issue with us supplying
Yeah, we
certain
don't-
information
yeah.
is, well, I think I like the information you supply to
Yeah.
help me,
Right.
but I haven't done, I didn't get
Due diligence
this,
to-
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I do, that was really helpful, no, seriously,
Well,
throughout,
those were my questions,
Yeah.
it's like,
yeah.
what do they look like?
What we just wanna get people here.
They do have a bunch of buttons,
They
you know,
do.
with fact sheets and stuff like that, so, whatever that is, if we could run it by them and have them post it, that'd be, I think,
Huh.
very good.
Well, yeah, but I don't wanna get into a thing where we're now reviewing Rich's language to
No,
have.
no, I want them, for them to look at this, look at the points, put it in their own language, but covering the same points and have it
It's
be.
not gonna happen between
Yeah,
now
and I
January.
also am not comfortable with that because we
Okay.
haven't really gone over it.
Okay, okay.
Let's keep this simple.
Okay,
We should refer, you know, if people want more information, they can read the the approved energy chapter or contact the energy committee members.
mhm.
People know what they look like, they drive around, they've seen them.
Yeah, they have the signs on their, the energy committee
Don't they have
buses.
little things?
Yeah,
like-
so they're solar powered energy. Let's keep this simple.
Okay,
Right.
All right, so we're done?
I think so.
Okay, so is there any other business? The silence is deafening. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to enjoy your holidays. We're not, did we decide we're not meeting?
Yes, you decided not to meet on the 23rd.
Okay. Have a great time.
Okay.
Me too.
And stay safe and don't go in any groups.